Hello everyone and welcome to One Teacher, One Scientist chat room. Today we have a very special guest with us, Ritika Khanna, a UNESCO consultant to the Government of India. Welcome to the show, Ritika. And it's such a pleasure to have you here and try and understand what heritage conservation or heritage study is all about. You've been doing research in heritage study. I would like to understand, how did you take up this career? I mean, usually in India, there is a stigma that, it's like science and then commerce and then comes liberal arts. How did you come up with the idea of taking up history and then going in for conservation?
Thank you, Vishali. It's a pleasure to be here with you in your chat room today. And thank you for those kind words and that introduction. So, yes, I'm in as a lot of people tell me, in a sort of an unconventional profession. So it all occurred, and I chose this path through taking up history in my undergrad. So that was the first step toward getting into heritage studies.
Mm-hmm.
And so you very rightly said that it's science, and then there's commerce, and then comes liberal arts or social sciences, which is which is sort of an unfortunate situation which we often see in our country, because history and social sciences, they tend to be a neglected field, or they tend to be an underrated field, specifically during your school, during your, say, 9th to 12th, even in primary school.
Yeah.
So to say how I reached here is a long journey, actually. So after my 10th class, when you're supposed to choose your subjects in school, there was this trend, or the ongoing situation at that time, that it's either science or it's either commerce. That these are the two fields that are bound to get you jobs.
Right.
People were very reluctant. So people were very reluctant to get their kids into social sciences, because they did not know what sort of jobs would history get, what sort of jobs would political science get. So I also took up commerce for my 11th and 12th. And while I was studying commerce, I realized that was not my field. I did not want to become a chartered accountant. I did not want to be in a banking industry, but due respect to all fields. What caught my interest the most was English literature at that time. And I would spend hours, devote a lot of my time on English instead of business studies or accounts. And within English, I figured out that I was very keen on learning the historic aspect of those dramas, or of, in which era was this poem written, what social background influenced this particular, be it a play of Shakespeare or any other poem. So that got me interested in history. And right after school, I decided that, this is something that I really want to study further. So I took up history honors. In my undergrad, I did history from Miranda House. And one thing led to the other. So when I was studying history, they teach you political history, they teach you social history, they teach you economic history. What caught my fancy the most was the art and architectural aspect of history. So I pursued masters in art history right after that. And while studying masters in art history, I was also exposed to the other branches of cultural studies, which are museology, conservation, and heritage management. So, like I said, one thing led to the other. So while I was studying art history, I realized that heritage management is something, or cultural management is something, that is a very unexplored field.
Right.
So I started taking up some freelance projects to understand what sort of work is there in the field. And the first project I ever did was the UNESCO nomination dossier for Delhi as a World Heritage City.
Oh, nice.
And it was, while it was a short project, I was employed for a short period of time in that project, but I got to research on the historic aspect of Delhi and how it evolved, right? And within that, I realized that I was suddenly not just studying history, or I was suddenly not just studying heritage management. There was so much of sociology involved in it. There was anthropology involved in it, and how there was so much of urban settlement that
Correct.
was involved in it. And I realized that history is it's layered, and it's not just one subject that you choose. So after that, I got a job at the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage, INTAC as it is called.
Right.
It's one of the leading non-governmental organizations in India that specifically protects art and cultural heritage of India. And I worked there for about 3 years. And I was fortunate to be exposed to such projects, both nationally and internationally, that just expanded my horizon in heritage management. And while I was there at INTAC, I got the opportunity to represent India at UNESCO. There is a platform called the Young, at that time in 2015, it was called the Young Heritage Experts Forum. Now it's called the Young Professionals Forum.
Okay.
So I happened to be the first Indian to participate in that
Nice.
platform. So suddenly I was there as a very, a girl who's just entered the field 2 years ago. And suddenly I was exposed to the international workings, to the
Correct.
international standards of heritage management. So while it was a little overwhelming to begin with, the kind of learning experience I got from there, it was unparalleled.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that experience really encouraged me to look into how heritage is dealt not just nationally but also internationally. And there is cultural diplomacy associated with it. How do different countries deal with their heritage matters? What are the problems common in so many countries? What are the problems or the solutions that different countries have to give differently? So
right.
this is what I started exploring. And then I got to know of a very specific course which was on UNESCO studies with a special focus on World Heritage matters. So I went for that course as well, and where I specifically studied UNESCO cultural conventions. So there's World Heritage, there's Intangible Cultural Heritage, there is Memory of the World program. So how UNESCO as an entity under its culture section, they deal with culture. What are the sensitivities associated to culture?
Yeah.
So this is how my journey has evolved so far, my professional and academic journey. And after I finished that course in Germany, and I was there for about 3 years studying as well as working, I came back to India and I started working again. And there was this advertisement I saw where the Ministry of Culture was specifically looking for someone who had experience in UNESCO heritage matters or who had knowledge. So I applied for it, and fortunately I got selected for it.
Very nice.
So yeah, that's how I have come to where I am. And I would say it was all because I chose history during my undergrad.
Yeah. And, somewhere do you think if you had got an opportunity to meet a mentor or somebody who was in this field, maybe early on in school, do you think that would have made a difference?
It would have definitely made a difference. So I would specify class 9th and 10th, because that's when children are made to focus on their higher school choices.
Correct.
That, in 9th and 10th, they are told that these are the prospects of science, these are the prospects of commerce. Nobody told us that there's something called social science, which, we knew there was social science, but these are the aspects or these are the avenues that would open when you study social science. So had such a counseling or such mentorship or such encouragement been done while I was in class 9th or 10th, I would have definitely chosen social science for my 11th and 12th as well.
Yeah. And somewhere I feel that children need to be connected with their culture, with their heritage, right from the beginning.
Absolutely.
And people thinking that social sciences and sciences should not be taught in primary classes, primarily because it becomes too much of a burden. Right. I think somewhere that can have a very far-reaching consequence.
Absolutely. So what makes me a little not happy about this this whole trend of not inculcating a likeness towards art and culture right from the beginning. It is it's like, so when you're young, you're not told to go to a museum, right? Or you're not told that going to an art gallery would also be a recreational activity. Or right from the beginning, you're not taken to heritage sites. Now things have evolved. Now things have changed, and you see a lot of awareness among school children about your culture, your heritage. But back in the 90s, when I was in school, 90s and early 2000s, the most that we went to was Lodi Garden for a picnic, and even at that time we did not know the significance of Lodi Garden. We just knew that they were beautiful gardens.
Yeah.
And my school was very close to the Red Fort in Daryaganj, and I am very surprised that we weren't taught the significance of Red Fort, which was basically in our backyard.
Yeah, absolutely. And somewhere even today, if you look at it, I feel that we are not really unleashing the power of these museums in teaching children, because it would just be a handful of children who are going here and there to the museums or to these sites. But doing away with social sciences now, that will really reduce this also.
Absolutely. So doing away with social sciences is not a good idea at all, because social science is something that makes you sensitive about the world around you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then science, maths, they give you all that technical knowledge. But when you look at the trends that have occurred in the past, and when you look at what sort of an influence a particular event has had on your cultural evolution, that's when you become sensitive. So things like racism, things like gender issues, things like social inequalities, all these things are learned through social sciences.
Yes.
And if you're not teaching your children social sciences at an early age, then you're basically keeping them away from all these sensitive issues they should know about. Delhi is your city. Teach them that Delhi has layers of history. Teach them how did your city, where is the genesis of your city?
Yes. How did it evolve into what it is?
How did it evolve? Which were the different dynasties? What sort of cultural patterns did each dynasty bring with them? So the children, I feel, will also start looking at themselves differently. They will start looking at their families differently.
Absolutely. It brings perspective. It brings a deeper perspective. It brings in a more holistic perspective towards whatever they're doing.
Yes.
So, tell me this, Ritika, like, what is that one skill that you feel children need to develop to, kind of do well in history or in social sciences? What is it that, you would say that children should be working towards?
So the first thing is, social sciences is not something where you have to mug up answers, right? So often you're told in schools that just mug up this answer, write it down, and it'll be done. You'll get those marks. What needs to change is children need to start understanding why a certain event happened, what has been its significance, and The other skill, which is a very basic skill, is to be interested. Be interested and always question. Never stop questioning.
Yes.
You know, the more you question, like there could be something in front of you, have the ability to ask, why is it like this? And why is it, what would it have been like if it would have been different?
Yeah, right.
It'll give you a lot of answers. It'll take you to a lot of other places which you would like to explore, which you may like to explore. So, yeah, I think questioning, curiosity, and being focused is something that children really need to have when they study social sciences.
And I think problem solving is what we need to kind of probably lay the foundation for. Because if a curious mind is just looking at situations, at objects, at various lives of people with a curious mind and trying to find, okay, what was the problem and how differently could the problem be handled, and what could be the impact of that action or that thought. I think that is what would make history more interesting.
Absolutely right. The first thing that I feel, and that's how I developed my interest in history, was whatever you look at, be it your laptop, you look at its company, just think that there's a history behind this company. It'll take you to the founder. It'll take you to the life of that founder. This is how people get interested in, they develop a keen interest in reading autobiographies or, get knowing what sort of political events happened in the past. So everything that you look at, you need to realize that there's a history behind it. Now, it may be a glorified history, which people know about. It may not be that glorified. And you may develop an interest out of it.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, Mama.
So what do you think helped you develop that interest? Was it your parents? Was it the school system? Or was it just an innate inner desire which kind of got you, kind of interested in it?
I would say it was percentages of all three. And so I started studying history because I had this innate interest in it. Now, the environment that I was put in, thankfully, was very encouraging. So the college that I went to, which is Miranda House, I feel lucky to be taught by such professors who would always ask you to question, who would always ask you to look further. So that was very encouraging environment. And secondly, and most importantly, at home, my parents never questioned my choices. They were always encouraging. So I just told them that history is something that I'm interested in. Never even once did they question, is history going to get you a paycheck? Or, where will you end up being after studying history? You will have to change your field after that. They just had confidence in me and they just supported me that, all right, if that's something that interests you, go for it. And after studying history, I told them I'm going to go for art history. And to be very honest, they did not know people who had studied art history or who had studied museology before. So they were also very proud of the fact that I was doing something different. But at the same time, they were also learning about my field through me.
Correct, absolutely. So, somewhere it's very, very important that parents need to believe in their child. Parents need to give them that freedom to explore. And it's all right. It's just all right.
Absolutely all right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you drill this notion in your child right from the beginning, like I have seen children being told, like from 5th class onwards, you have to be a doctor, or you have to crack the civils, you have to be an engineer. Now the child will follow that expectation, will end up becoming the doctor or the engineer he's expected to become. Maybe only to realize that it is not something that he actually wanted to do. His heart and his passion may be lying somewhere else.
Absolutely. And he was probably not given the chance to explore it.
And I also feel that these factors play an important role in how you develop your child's psychology. So
someday the child would realize that he's living a totally unfulfilled life, because
absolutely.
because it's something that he was doing for his parents or for society.
Right. So that is a factor. These are the misconceptions that we really need to break now.
Absolutely.
And it all starts from home. So whenever someone speaks to me about my field, I always feel very happy in telling them that I always end up giving them the example of my parents, that please do not stop your child from exploring. Please do not drill any certain thing in his or her mind right at an early age. And if the child tells you that, no, this is something that I don't want to do, support him. Ask her, what is it that you would want to do?
Absolutely. So that that connect and the bond between the parent and the child
right.
is important. The child should be able to speak up to the parent and say, this is what I want to do, and without being judged.
Absolutely. And this reminds me also of my brother, if I may give my brother's example.
Sure, absolutely.
My elder brother, he studied English in his undergrad, and he scored a good 91% in his class 12 exams. So he just decided to go for English honors because theatre and films and literature is what he was really interested in. But what was happening simultaneously was my parents were being questioned that, why are you making your son study English? It's a subject of girls. And now, when he chose, he's, by God's grace, he's an accomplished filmmaker now. Now people just say, oh, that was a very unconventional field that we chose.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So that is these are the things that one, parents really need to understand. And second, in the school environment, there is a need for education counselors to closely work with schools and give them suggestions beyond the school curriculum.
Yes, and I feel somewhere, in right from primary classes, if the child is actually experiencing his learning, if the child is actually getting a chance to, kind of play the role of a real world situation. I mean, he's handling a real world situation and is doing what people do in the real world. That entire concept will become more meaningful.
Absolutely right. And that needs to become. It's high time that we do that now.
Absolutely. I mean, that in the 21st century, we can't expect children to be learning for fill in the blanks and question answers, and just kind of for the sake of thinking skills, we are just adding them as a part of the curriculum. The child needs to have a dynamic environment and maybe get mentors from outside to show them, to pull them out of this structured curriculum and show them the world.
Absolutely right. Now, in my field, while we say it's heritage, the notion of heritage is, monuments. But when you actually get into the field, I closely work with people who are scientists. They have so much of knowledge of material aspects of things and they haven't studied history. But their interest led them to come in this field of heritage management. There are people who deeply study climate change, and one of their specializations is how climate change is impacting our cultural and natural heritage. So it is time to, just move beyond the notion that history means learning dates, or political science will lead you to become a politician, or what will you do with sociology. I think education also needs to be given at the parental level now.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it needs to be more holistic. Rather than creating boundaries between subjects, it needs to be like a free-flowing,
Free-flowing, yeah. And multidisciplinary aspect really needs to be explored.
Yes.
And
it is getting introduced, but I think it needs to get strengthened. And that is the approach that we need to take.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
thank you so much, Ritika. It was really enriching talking to you.
My pleasure, Vaishali. It was great being here with you.
Together, we can all make a difference and build perspectives for parents, for teachers,
Absolutely.
and help more and more children pursue their dreams.